Hazer, I know we talked with Thursday, but we were just talking with T-Mac and said how, I remember last year, all the conversation was how each game he's getting better, each game he's getting better. This year he seems to be more consistent across the board. Are you seeing that?
To a certain degree, but I think, as a group, we haven't had that full consistency, right? So while his game has been, I still think it's improving, shift in, shift out. He's just getting a lot more comfortable. And again, Fieldsy's a dynamic player, but sometimes he's hard to play against or play with. And I think that's the comfort level that he's starting to find and figure out. And then last week, it comes shining through when, again, as a group, we're doing the things we need to do.
As you, the guys that are back from last year, which was a pretty big contingent, is Ryan Lanchbury, I mean, does he have the case to be the most improved player?
Good question. I don't know about most improved. I think he's just more confident now at the end of the day here. Like he's always had that skill in his bag. It's just, again, I think he's just confident that he understands as a system, he's in control of a lot of it and he's able to do a lot of things that makes him successful and it's going to make us successful.
You talked about Waters yesterday and how he doesn't necessarily need to score every game to be productive, but when you are a player like that, when you're not a Connor Fields or a Ryan Smith and you're putting up 80 to 100 plus points a year, how do you, as a forward, have a productive career and sustain longevity in this league, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's, again, the stuff Kyle needs to do is not necessarily on the stat sheet at the end of the day, right? He's a big body, and he's got to move guys out of the way to give Lanch that space, to give Smitty that space, to give Nider that space, right? And there's times where he just kind of gets stuck coming on the floor and just kind of doing a little bit of a pirouette where he's not really moving guys or not moving himself out of the way as well, right? So, so if he's able to continually get in, play inside out, create some space, the opportunities are going to open up for him, and that's where he's able to get his 1-2 a night, and that's what he did last week. At the end of the day, he just wasn't in a spot pushing on somebody. He was coming through and pushing somebody. So a little bit of a difference for us.
When you look at his effort, I mean, is that your best game of the season?
It's definitely one of them. Complete game, yeah, 100%. Like I say, Hartz was bang on making. He was dialed, making, and again, made some early saves for us. Got his confidence. Defensively, we frustrated them by being physical, by getting on hands, and just again supporting each other. And I think the biggest factor for me is that we came on the floor with a purpose. We got off the floor with a purpose. We came on the floor with a purpose, and they didn't get their matchups early. And we didn't settle for the easy shots. We just kept working, and the good ones came, and they took advantage of the good ones.
You think it's good for tonight? Is this going to be an emotional one for him? I mean, the crowd, they know who he is, and they know what he's gone through. I think that's the biggest thing. What did we see it last year where they were roaring when he came on the field for even a little bit of time? So, I mean, are emotions and that noise something that can be channeled into something tonight?
Again, for Hartz, he's got to, again, just get his internal focus going and again, worry about what he needs to do. Last week, you couldn't talk to him on game day. And that's when Hartz is going to come into the building with a purpose and with that mindset and do whatever it takes to stop that ball. So he's got to show up here in a couple hours and screw everybody else, worry about him.
Double question. How much was that a shooting efficiency game, and how much was it a Kyle Calais in his bag game?
Kyle did a really good job with them, but I still think it was efficient on as far as the shooting goes. But I think the biggest thing for them is that we got on the floor and we just didn't go to a spot. We got through the wash and just created gaps and created confusion, which made it a lot easier for our guys to play. And I think that's a commitment that I got to make every shift.
Last goal of the first half is one that speaks to me as kind of the identity of this offense a little bit. It's 4-on-4. Fieldsy has the ball. And from the looks of it, the play was just pull the double and pass to whoever is open. And I feel like that's really how this team has built the offense, would you say?
Yeah. And again, Fieldsy controls a lot of the play, obviously, right? And again, defensively, you got to worry about Fieldsy because he can do so much. And with the extra body not on the floor, it's too much space for him to do what he wants to do, right? So, yeah, 100%. T-Mac set that nice little screen, that little slip, and with Fields on, he's going to find him in the way he did.
Last question for me. It felt like, obviously, he doesn't show up on the stat sheet every time because he's not the first or second lefty, but Graydon Hogg has consistently been finding more and more opportunities, and just it seems like doing things right, getting to the dirty areas, getting to the inside despite not necessarily having the size. Just how have you seen him progress this year?
Yeah. Uses his feet to his advantage versus size like K-Dub, right? Like he's in and out, and again he bangs hard, but he also turns defenders' hips and turns their eyes away from the ball, and that's what makes him successful. And again, he's got a nose for the net. He knows where to go to get to the, like say, the dirty areas, but also he's got that nice little outside shot if it presents itself. So he's playing well.
So defensive end of things, obviously you talk about Hartley, 42 saves in that game, but when I look at this in defense, you've been playing in front of a guy all season long that is very clear, give him the shots that he wants and put him in the right areas. How does that convert now for the defense with the more acrobatic goaltender in the crease?
Similar, very similar. Like I say, we're not really changing our system. It's more about their personnel a little bit. So we'll try to close gaps on a few guys versus, and we could hedge off a couple other guys on the floor, right? But yeah, Hartz gives us that ability to, again, he reacts a lot quicker. So we can, sometimes, take a little more chances, I guess, really at the end of the day, have our slide ready early as opposed to holding tight and making sure everything's to the outside. Mind you, we want to keep everything to the outside as much as possible, right? So it's just different.
Yeah. For me, Jesse King, we talked about last week, ends the game with 1 and 2, which is pretty much perfect in terms of shutting down a player, and Dane Dobie even only ends that game with 1 and 2. Is there 1 or 2 players on this Albany team, whether it's Alex Simmons, Ty Kurtz, or it's a lefty, that is going to be key to having less than, say, 4 points in this game?
I think Simmons is a big one, obviously, right? Like he controls the pace. He takes a ton of shots. So we got to make sure that we limit his time and space. And again, if we gap, he's going to shoot just like their whole team. If we gap, if they got a shot, they're going to shoot it. So yeah, he's a big one. And then again, that right side controls a lot of the place. And then the left side is just a bunch of workers with Dyson on the outside and Walker there, Ethan Walker on the outside as well. So again, 2 different players, very dynamic. We just got to play a complete T game and just, worry about the moments in front of us and be good.